a choice right now, between fear and love. It's just a ride.
Out of the dark night of ignorance and into the shining light of truth.
Expanding reality.
A population of citizens capable of critical thinking.
We don't see things as they are, we see them as we are.
There's a level of reality where everything dissolves into an ocean of energy.
We empower our experience by insisting on our authenticity.
That's very profound. Very.
Expanding reality.
Adam Butler, welcome to the show, dude. First of all, I want to thank you for an incredible book that you've written here, the Butler's DMT Field Guide, a brief history, step-by-step recipes, and personal experiences from a DMT-saturated consciousness. Look at that thing, guys. Audio-only audience, link in the show description, or the video for this is in there as well, and you can come hang out with us. Now, you sent this signed, you sent amazing picture stickers here that go along with this. Dude, I'm so impressed with not only your presentation, but just the fact that you wrote a damn DMT field guide, dude, and also did put recipes in here that I was looking through. I'm like going, holy shit. So we're going to talk about all of it, all the ways to find him located down in the show description. Adam, let's go ahead and get to know you bit of this down here, if you don't mind, sir.
Sure. First, if I could, thanks for having me. I've been really enjoying your show and truly expanding my consciousness and reality.
Come on.
I'm glad I found you. It's definitely mutual. So, my story is really relevant. How it's relevant to the show is probably my experiences prior to DMT and then after DMT. I mean, ultimately that's why I wrote the book. And it ultimately tied into my mental health issues and alcoholism and kind of, I guess, my midlife crisis. We were just discussing that this period in our life in our early 40s. I had an absolutely blessed life. Truly, I had amazing parents, great grandparents, college educated, great career, had all the money, multiple houses, relationships, everything. This was all in my late 30s. I thought on paper that this is good. This is what success is. But I was mentally sick. I was ill, and ultimately I was drowning it with alcohol. That, but I had the high paying job, and in today's society, that was kind of a way for me to mask everything. So I had this beautiful 3-story Victorian. I had multiple rental properties. I was making the 170, 180 grand a year. I had the beautiful cars, everything like that. So everything was good, right? And it really wasn't. I was going for walks late at night, basically wanting not only to hurt myself, but other people, and really just being sad and depressed. Without getting into all the details, really, it was 3 or 4 major life events that led to me just kind of saying, fuck it. And by fuck it, I'm going out into the desert to off myself. It was, I got a restraining order against me. I got a knock on my house, and my 7+ year relationship was ended by the knock of a door from a constable. I basically was accused of doing some horrible shit, and in retrospect, I was an angry, horrible person. Now, I never put my hands on anybody, but I was mentally and verbally abusive, and ultimately it was because of my depression and alcoholism. And I'm not, it was because of me, but those were the things that I was dealing with to cope with it, not the real work that I needed to do. So I got kicked out of my house, relationship broken up, and then that's right when COVID kind of happened. So then my court case got held up in court for like a year and a half. So there was this kind of limbo where I was just stagnant, but I was still paying all these bills, legal bills, all things like that. But I moved on. I found another relationship. Well, I got into another relationship. I got an even better job. I moved out to the Cape. Everything was going good. Well, then that relationship ended horribly. I got screwed over by work, and I threatened to kill a man. And I meant it. And it was really serious. And he basically looked at me and said, all right, fuck you, I'll kill you. And he lived, a couple basically blocks from me. And that was on a Sunday. And Monday morning, I was like, I'm leaving and I'm driving to California to hug a redwood tree. And I live in I live in Rhode Island. So, it was literally coast to coast. And I took over a year to really just travel the country. I went to like 38 states. I think on my phone it said I visited like 268 new cities, and really I just traveled the world doing shrooms and DMT and meditating and praying and kind of finding myself. But at the beginning of that journey, it was I'm going out because I not only am I disgusted with myself, but I'm disgusted with humankind. But like I said, with the help of DMT primarily, I was able to kind of reset my whole mindset. So, and then now, so I blew up so I lost my house, I lost my relationship, I lost my job, I lost everything. Literally, I own now a car, a bike, and a couple backpacks, from truly having every material, thing possible. But I have happiness and contentment, and we just kind of did a moment of prayer, silence, gratitude before the show. And I mentioned how the ability to be present and mindfully present and to be comfortable, was the best thing that I possibly gained, and contentment and happiness. It was a long journey, but, and ultimately, that's what led to the book, because it was, if this happened to me, this rich white kid from New England who had every advantage and had the world, at his grasp, if it could happen to me where I was that put down by the world, I can only imagine the men and women that have far less. So I was hoping maybe my story of complete destruction would help other people, that they don't have to go through it.
I don't know that anyone can avoid it, my friend. I think it's an interesting thing that we come to with this, where, first of all, thank you so much for sharing that, dude. Grateful to know you, grateful to call you a brother. This is incredible, because you really reach down into the depths of it, man. And that's what this place is all about, I really think. There's an interesting correlation between you thinking that we can help the others avoid trials and tribulations by going through them and then sharing our story about them. And in some ways, I feel it's true, because there's going to be a lot of people that hear this and go, holy shit, and it's going to give some either frame of reference. They either say I'm exactly where that dude is, or they say, shit, that's pretty extreme. And at least, my life isn't there yet. And so you can give a glimpse into that avenue. But as far as like being able to go through your life, hearing that things are hot, but never getting burned, I don't think that that's possible, in this place. So I think that these collapses, and just especially having getting, I don't feel over it yet, but having experienced one, perhaps still in it a little bit, but I feel that everyone on a certain path, if you're seeking here, you're going to fucking come up some shit like you did. And it's because it's on the other side of what we thought we needed, and then it brings you up to this place. I have sort of this vision of it. How I visioned it when I was going through it was the ascension sort of path rose really, really high, but it's because I had a bunch of shit stuck on me. If we want to use a metaphor, that there was just globs of fucking tar and nasty rocks and gross habits and beliefs and all that shit stuck on me. And the only way to get it off is to rise so high that something happens, the gravity turns off, you reach a certain moment and you just drop. And that drop shatters you on the ground into a million fucking pieces, man. And if you're able to sort of T1000 your way and assimilate them back together, it's a new, clean, fluid feeling. It's a fresh start. This is the phoenix in alchemy. This is the rising. And we were just speaking about Pluto squared, because I encountered 3 massive dicks from the universe, and it was Pluto, Neptune, and Uranus. And they fucked me for like 3 months straight. And it was these huge pivotal moments of astrology in one's personal life. And I just experienced all 3 of these at the same time, and it just murdered me, dude. So it feels like, especially with you sharing your story, that I'm not alone, and this is what you can help with, is, getting somebody like you to come forward and talk about not only what you experienced, but also a very unorthodox, I would say, method of sort of going about your mental health, is to sort of step out of reality completely and to disoblige it with fucking DMT, man. So would you like to offer a disclaimer for us here before we get really deep into this?
I do, but I want to thank you for kind of clarifying you're never going to avoid the pain. And I think you said it correctly. So it's, how do you process it? How do you go through it? How do you honestly go through it and say, wow, I'm blessed to be going through it. This is where I can earn my badges. This is where I can be tested and really, understand what my true calling is. Also, if I could be, before we kind of get into some of the dangers, your analogy of the globs, because my girlfriend and I use that analogy all the time, and I'll probably reference her a couple of times. That's a young lady that wrote that chapter in the book, Alicia, and she offers. So she's been through a bunch of shit in her life, used DMT as well, but comes from a highly educated occupational therapist, mom, from just a completely different perspective. But we use the analogy of plaque, and that just as you grow older and as an adult going through life, you just, through your own bullshit, society's bullshit, all the stresses, you just do get globbed down. And like I said, we use the analogy plaque. And not only does that plaque not allow you to shine properly, to express yourself artistically, creatively, to express love, but it also doesn't allow you, and it blocks out you receiving that light and love, whether it be the universal source and information, whether it be love and light from somebody else, whether it be any. So to shatter it. So now whether you jump from a plane, hit and shatter into a million pieces, or like I did, truly use DMT to ultimately blow up everything. And I did that consciously. I hadn't done psychedelics for a 20 plus year span. I kind of dabbled them in high school and early college. I did shrooms a few times. I did LSD a few times. But that, through my adult life, I really I didn't even consider doing them. But then with quitting alcohol, and I'm sure we'll touch on that too. I think that really helped. But so after I quit alcohol and I started kind of getting some clarity of thought, I started kind of dabbling into shrooms, and I became comfortable being in that psychedelic space. And I started, pushing 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 gram doses and really going really, really deep. And I was getting some really good therapeutic value. But there was a lot of information about DMT out there. And I had a friend basically say, listen, I have access to this. If you'd like it, I really think this may be able to help you. Now, then I spent several months doing all the research I could. So I started off with, Rick Strassman's books, an awesome interview with him. It's cool to be on the other side of that as well. So I started with his work, and then Joe Rogan interviews, and then some of the other people doing research. And I felt as though I have to take this molecule with treat it with respect and understand that it is really profound. But at that point, I had literally lost everything. I had nothing, and it was kind of like, listen, if this doesn't work, I'm done. And it wasn't a rash decision. It was something that I had contemplated quite a bit. I had weighed the scales of life as a educated individual. I felt as though I was able to make that conscious decision, and I really I was leaning very heavy towards not staying on this planet. So that first day, and we kind of set a date. It was really with this beautiful intention, and we both, my friend and I, we prayed, we meditated, we understood the gravity of the situation, and I kind of go over that in the book about that first day, just about how fucking mind blowing it was, because I did take roughly 50 hits that first day. It was like 7, 8 sessions, and each session was multiple hits, and I just kept pushing it because in my mind there really wasn't an alternative. I was either going to fry my mind or die trying, and that last session when I had that proverbial breakthrough session, I came out of it and just crumpled into a mess on my friend's floor, and just was crying these huge tears of gratitude, because I was just so happy that I didn't need to keep banging my head against the wall and keep asking that same question. I had my answer. Now I still had a bunch of work. I had just lost my job. I had lost everything. I had no home. I was truly homeless. And I used to invest in real estate. So at some point I had owned 15 houses at one point. And I'm not saying that to brag, but to be 43 years old and then to be homeless after having all of these properties, it was like, holy shit, this is real. And I came out of that experience knowing, all right, I have a lot of rebuilding I need to do, but the light, so that plaque was removed. So then I realized, and this I think is probably the most beautiful aspect of what I've been sharing is hearing the other people's stories. I realized how beautiful I was. And that's maybe funny coming from, a gnarly looking guy like myself. But I realized truly how beautiful I was, because I was a piece of God, that I was a piece of universal light. And whatever that meaning is to you, it's just, you're something greater than. And as soon as you realize that, it's amazing how your perspective changes. And I realized I was my own worst enemy. And ultimately I was wasting all of this valuable energy and effort destroying myself, as opposed to expanding myself and helping others, which I knew, that was my purpose on this planet. And I just needed to get rid of that plaque.
Oh, Adam. Oh, we're going to talk about your book, but we're on a thing here, so we're going to keep it going, okay? The plaque analogy I want to come back to, but I do want to touch on something that you said about calling it, phoning it in, and ending it all. Because there may be some folks out there that either feel the same way you do, have felt the same way you do, can empathize, or have no idea and think what you're saying is crazy. So I just want to put some perspective on this because I can offer some. In that time period of which I just spoke, which is very recent, guys. I'm very out of this. I've not talked about this on the show, but again, Adam, we're in a thing here, so we're going to do it. In this time period, I woke up with a message at least some point throughout the day for at least 3 months that said, you're going to kill yourself today. It's not my voice. I am not suicidal. It's one of those things to where you go, what the fuck is going on here? And it was so powerful and so redundant that it became the mantra. I banished all of the mantras. I stopped everything. I did turn off a lot of my life, man. And you know, we may have T-shirts coming out here, living out of spite. There's another dear friend of mine who just recently lost his wife of 38, 3 small kids, and to horrible fucked up cancer. And him and I would have conversations during this time period, and he would, you know, message me, and I'd just say, hey, send in love, mate. And he would say, you know, I mean, even though neither one of us could express love, we couldn't feel it, we couldn't receive it, we didn't know what that word even fucking meant. If you reverse it, it's actually evil. So, you know, what the fuck is this realm anyway? So there was so much going on with that, but at least whenever we would touch base, he would just say, hey, do you want to talk each other out of committing suicide today? I said, absolutely. Now, the conversations were never that, okay? They weren't like, bro, don't, right? Because I don't have, number one, I feel a fucking right to do that. And I've changed my mind significantly while staring this in the face, because it's something that if you don't have, I don't know that anyone, I would wish this opportunity on anyone, but if it is an opportunity, you really want to look at that and look at what it means to look at that, then there's another conversation on the other side to be had, because that's not even the worst of it. What you said about it, I just don't want to be blended off into the mix of what we're talking about here and not be addressed, because I experienced it and it was heavy as fuck. And it still rocks me a little bit, but I will say this, on the other side of it, on the other fucking side of that shit, you gain more power because that plaque that's been broken off. And here's the other bit of that. Yes, a lot of that plaque has been forced on you, but early on we choose to stick that plaque on us, because I said the metaphor, so we're just going to stick with it here just for a minute. That we come in as these beautiful, fucking amazing, light, pure, amazing things. And we look around and we say, well, my mom who's my guardian, that's my everything. She has all this like tar and feathers and this black muck all over, and she has all this fucking shit all over her. And I could see a little bit of light poking through, you know, and I know that. But I mean, why does everybody around me, my pastors, my teachers, my brother and sister even have some light body, but they've got a lot of muck stuck on them now. And what you notice is your beliefs, these little limitations, these things. You actually tar and feather yourself along with your environment. And that's what this place is. It's this fucking torture machine that gets you to stick all this fucking heavy shit on you so that you can be weighed down enough to be preyed upon by whatever fucking energies are here to do so. Through the type of metamorphosis you and I have experienced here, dude. Apologies. It seems that it's so crucial, vital, and important for us at least to talk about it, because then folks, again, yeah, maybe you're not feeling alone. And if you fucking want to talk, guys, reach out to me. I'm not hard to find. Just reach out. It's a very real thing. And again, I'm not suicidal, and you're obviously not either. But I think, again, to touch on the fact that it can be so real is something that's very, very important to address and to talk about. So thank you again for talking about this, dude. We can continue on with your book, but I just wanted to bring that up.
Well, and it's important to want to bring it up, because that's been by far the most rewarding aspect after writing this book, is getting literally hugged and kissed by other grown men being like, oh my God, thank you for sharing your story, because it allowed me to share my story. And people just want to have a comfortable space to feel heard, to feel listened to not feel judged. And we're not unique to have our plaque or our bullshit,
right?
And it's tough, but especially with guys, you know, we're led to be this macho tough guy. You can't cry, you can't talk about this, you can't hug another. That's bullshit. You have to cry. A lot of tears are good tears. You have to outlet emotion. You have to connect like that, and then once you do, and then once you become fully connected with yourself, and like you said, when you come on the other side, it is so beautiful. And ultimately, I know there are people that are sitting in a really dark place, and I've been there. It sounds like you've been there. The light on the other side is so much more vivid and so much more beautiful, and your senses are so much more in tune to it. That, man, if you can just get there, your perceptive and perception will always will forever be changed, and it'll be changed in an awesome way. And to your point to start the show, the suffering, the bullshit, the kicks and the dicks, the cancer, the death, the dying, all of that somehow, some way, is to allow us the opportunity for growth, to really grow stronger at that crack and bend. And the way I look at it, and maybe another analogy that we use often, is kind of like gaining those Girl Scout badges or the Boy Scout badges, where you go through these trials and tribulations and you get that badge. And my sash is covered with badges that it takes a lot of work to get. And I want those badges. I want those life badges, because now I have the confidence to walk in to any room, to any situation, and deal with truly anything or anybody and feel comfortable in my own skin. And that wasn't the case before. And it wasn't because I was intimidated or scared. If anything, just the opposite. I used to manipulate. I was narcissistic. I was controlling. I would use my intellect and perceived power to try to control people, where now it's just the opposite. It's, how can you connect with one? How can you love one another? How can you help each other achieve a goal, not use somebody for your own goal? So it's a completely different shift. So yeah, you win personally because you get to stay alive, but then you get to enjoy the blessings of life.
Man, we will talk more about this being a hell copy of an awesome world, and it's a demiurge place, and everything from here's from hell, and but we'll talk about it. But I love your perspective, because it's very, very necessary, I feel, absolutely, because look what it's done. Look what you've been able to do with your life. Look how you've changed your
now we can get into
life,
the fun
man.
stuff.
Yeah.
I can get into the tantric sex and all that good stuff.
I know. I saw this in your chapter here. What is this? Alicia's angle, just big words right here. Transcendent sex as soul dialysis. So, I mean, you got to read more, guys. Linked below for damn sure. Butler's DMT Field Guide. So let's talk about it, man. Do you want to give the disclaimer for the kiddos there about DMT and...
Well, I think it's important, just especially, I think all psychedelics have gotten a lot of attention, not just DMT. So shrooms, ketamine, for PTSD and depression, anxiety. And the research is showing that it helps. The research is showing that it does increase neuroplasticity, that it does allow people to kind of reset their lives. That being said, it's not something that should just be done haphazardly. You really have to understand why you're doing it. And that's not to say you can't do it for a party or for a rave or for a concert, or just to sit out by the fire and just veg out. Those are all, you don't have to be in the depths of suicide to enjoy the benefits of psychedelics. But you can't just, I think, just take them randomly, and you certainly shouldn't just be giving them randomly and acting like, oh yeah, everybody should be doing this, because just as much as it's rocket fuel. And I say in the book something similar to the fact of, it can bring the ship to the moon, but it can also blow it up. And it's true. So just as far and know what you're getting. And ultimately that was one of the reasons why I wanted to put the recipes in the book too, because I think you get so much more benefit when you make a product yourself and you start from bark, root, and leaf to whether it be a drink or the crystals that you're able to vape. The process. You've done it. You've made it with love. You've seen where the products come from. So I think that's important too, is that you're able to, source it properly. But just be ready. And whether you have a guide or somebody to sit with you, like in my case, that first day, I felt as though I really needed that person. And once another grown, burly, bearded man who was, we were sitting there with our shoes off, and I had a pillow and a blanket, and all he did was just sit there and comfort me. And not even by comfort me. All he did was sit there, and I knew that if anything were to happen, whether the door got knocked on or there was a fire or whatever, I would be taken care of, and that he was physically able to take care of me. But other than that, he just sat back and let me have my space. But, make sure you do have a comfortable, safe space. Make sure, that you're not going to have whatever random distractions. Certainly don't do it in public if you're not used to, what the effects are. But really, I just, and we could speak for an hour about disclaimers and safety things. It's more just
Don't fucking do it while you're driving. Like, this takes your vision away, guys. It's not a get up and walk around thing. It's a sit down, fucking be safe. Like, be maybe strapped down to something. Like, just sit down.
And do your own research.
Yes,
and I say that like this book is certainly not the end all be all. The whole purpose of this book was to be a brief, easy to read field guide, which then leads you to ask other further questions and then read other books. And then, you know, there are scientists that have spent 20, 30 years of their life dedicating this, like Dr. Strassman. Those are the authorities. This really is, you know, some case history, some easy recipes, and really just a, you know, kind of my bio to say there's another way out. As opposed to
I like your
taking that way
disclaimer.
out.
I'm going to interrupt you to say you're just as much of an authority, dude, because of your actual boots on the ground experience, if you want to say that, your realm experience. You've gone there, I think, more than the average person, especially anyone who's just sitting there with looking at a piece of paper going, oh, this has this many things in it, so it should make you feel this way. And then reading brain charts and shit. It's very different than to venture to put on the fucking spacesuit and to go through the dimension, dude. So like,
once you've seen what I've seen, you don't unsee it for sure.
I am not going to downplay your contribution to this field. I feel it's equal, if not more important than Dr. Strassman. So I've fucking said it.
You.
That's out there on the airwaves now.
Oh boy. Thank you. But so really what, and you know, segue with Strassman again, I think what really excited me about the prospect of using it as well was the endogenous factor. So the fact that it is produced naturally, not only in our own bodies, but, you know, a bunch of other plants, mammals, and there is something different about this. So, you know, when you're taking shrooms, the effects are amazing, and the environment changes and morphs, and the walls melt, and you're able to, you know, your consciousness in reality certainly gets expanded. But it is a foreign substance, and it feels like you're getting poisoned. Like when that starts hitting you, and granted, it's a kind of a good feeling, but you know, shit, this is running through your blood and it's starting to go. When you smoke DMT, it is so natural and it's mind blowing, and it's like, holy fuck, everything just gets completely thrown out the window. But it's like it instantly removes the veil, and it instantly puts you in your more natural, innate, organic, universal state, without that plaque, without the bullshit. And, you know, not only your five senses are completely tuned up, but then you have all these other senses that kick in, and you really do experience reality in a more real sense. And it's not more real, like one's real and one's more fake. It's just one has 5 inputs and one has 25 inputs or 500 inputs. And that's what was really exciting to me. It was, if I can navigate this realm, oh, man, what type of information can I possibly garner? And like I said, when I got it kind of into it, everything in my life was completely blown up. So I had no job, no house, no relationship, nothing. Luckily, I had enough finances where I could take a year and a half off. And at that point too, I just, you know, I think I blew like 70, 80 grand and was just like, fuck it. Like, cause I didn't care. I figured I'm just going to go out with a bang, and I really didn't plan on living. So it was really just kind of do it. So I took the time to really go deep, and yeah, we can
wow
go into several of the aspects of it. You know, there's so much more than just
dude.
Mental health, but yeah, so it really allowed me to open things up.
It did, and it sounds like such a tremendous healer for you, which is why it's so interesting how I think this place works. There are just so many different avenues for you to kind of get to the root of things. And if nothing else, what you're being presented with isn't so out of the box to comparison to what this reality is, that you're given, I mean, just an amazing perspective to juxtapose one reality from another, right? And then the question is, do you find them to be separate realities? Or do you think that one's overlaid on the other, and that gives you sort of the sight or the invitation to experience that realm?
I think they're overlaid. So, you know, the kind of big question I think is it created in your brain? Is it just a hallucination based on the drugs, or are you receiving some sort of outside signal? You know, so is consciousness itself derived from your human brain, or is your brain kind of like an antenna and receiving other information? I am highly convinced, excuse me, that our brain is receiving information from outside our brain. You know, our consciousness is way more than just the neurons in our brain. So I think what happens is you really just start tuning into what's there. So there's that kind of reducing valve theory. I think like Huxley wrote that book, Doors of Perception, where he did mescaline and kind of was like, holy shit, all of these your brain takes out so much information. Otherwise you would just go nuts and you couldn't do anything. Once you start removing these veils and seeing all of the information and energy and different vibrations that are out there, you start tasting sounds and you start seeing and touch and tasting colors and all of these weird things start happening, and you realize that in my opinion I don't think that can be generated in your brain. And there's, I guess, another philosophical question, whether it's generated in your brain or not. Like, what would be the evolutionary benefit of having these crazy psychedelic spaces? Why would you be talking to DMT entities? Why are we, what's the benefit of having this crazy alternate dimension universe that you're going into? If that's created in our own human brain, then cool, I want to study that, because why did our evolution produce that? If it is something outside of, and we're just one tiny species able to tap into just a small remote spectrum, I want to explore that too, because the information and entities, or however we want to call it, what I've been communicating with in that space is, I don't know, if it's produced in my brain, then my brain's even more fucked than I thought it is. If it's what's really out there, then there's a lot to be explored. And from hearing other people's experience of going into this DMT space, it seems like our experiences are all pretty similar. There's certainly some subjectivity there where it does kind of pinpoint and hone in on what needs to be found, but there's a lot of similarities, which leads me to believe that we are just all tapping into a different vibrational wavelength of information, and it's encoded in different things than sight, sound, taste, feeling. It's downloaded. It's a complete reset into your DNA, brain, whatever.
Fucking hey. I've got a question for you about androgynous DMT being possibly a gateway to spirit possession, but I want to ask you something before that, kind of marinate on that. Would you mind walking us through your typical trip? Like perhaps your most remarkable, actually, if you don't mind. I'm just curious to see, if you don't mind describing for the audience, what your experience was.
So there's probably not anything typical that they are. So I said there's some commonalities but each one is mind blowing. It never gets easy. Each one takes the full prep. I would say that first day where I had that breakthrough session. So the first hit that I took, once again, it was instantly like, this is familiar. The taste, there was this weird nasal sensation on the back of my throat that felt very, very familiar. All of my sensations after that first hit, it was similar to like a shroom psychedelic effect, but it wasn't anything mind blowing. There certainly wasn't any entities or anything like that. So I took another, 2 or 3 hits and just kind of sat there, and it was very comfortable. As much as it was like, wow, this is amazing, I didn't feel scared. It didn't feel like poison, because it is endogenous. Your body metabolizes it super quick. So that's one of the benefits of smoking DMT, is it only lasts 7-8 minutes tops, and then you're back to full lucidity. So that first 3 or 4 hit session, all right, this is great, but no, certainly didn't have any life-changing revelations. So then I pushed it 6-7 hits, and I say that if you're trying to hit like a bong or a pipe with a lighter, you start losing functionality pretty quick. So like a vape pen or a cartridge, so I was able to do it where I just had to hit a button. So it was kind of like lean back and I still could hit the button. So 3, 4, 5, 6 sessions. So now an hour's going by, and I'm kind of pushing myself pretty hard, and I'm having good experiences, but I still didn't get this like epiphany, like, and that's kind of what I was expecting. And that's really what I was pushing for. Then that last session, I really prayed and asked for help. And I was just always trying to connect all of these proverbial dots in my life, from the past, the future. How could this happen? I'm so blessed, but I'm so screwed. And what's going to happen now? And I was, I talked about being comfortably, mindfully in the present moment. I certainly was not that. I was constantly scattered. So that last session, all the crazy kaleidoscopic mending of sights and all the weird shit that people describe seeing. And then it's tough to describe other than just using all this colorful language, but all of that stopped. So it was like complete silence, no vibration, no hum, no sights, no sounds. And it just felt like I was being pulled from all the directions at the same time. And then the information was given to me, and I've been asked before, was it like English voice, was it a professor, like how was it given to you? So it wasn't the sight, sound, vibrational information. It wasn't somebody talking. It was truly just this download, upgrade, however you want to say it. And I instantly knew, how I conveyed it was, all right, you want to connect these 100 dots or 1,000 dots. Boom, here it is, all connected. And then, throw in 1,000,000 dots. You want to connect 1,000,000 dots? Watch how easy this is. Connect them all and then scatter those. Now there's 1,000,000,000,000. Now there's 1,000,000,000. And then, it kind of did that a couple rounds, and it was just like, no, you stupid human. You're never going to connect all of these dots. That the point isn't to connect the dots. The point is to kind of dance and play with the dots, and to understand that the space between the dots is where that information is. And it's a game to be played, not to be won. And my mind was academically trained, and I had all of the advantages in the world to explore all these things. So I had probably more going on in my brain than most, and just everything was trying to connect. And then in an instant, I realized the point isn't to connect them all. And then just to not waste that much mental energy on trying to connect those dots, it instantly freed up everything else. And so that the amount of life-changing information given in a 10-second, 15-second DNA download or whatever the fuck download it was probably the most like, oh shit, profound. As far as typical or like what my experience is, and I'd like to get into this because it's kind of a fun story of how it's all morphed. So the first, say, dozen or so sessions, and I've done smoking DMT probably a couple hundred times. I've done ayahuasca maybe 20 times or so, but primarily when I'm talking about it, it's smoking it. So the first, say, 20, 30 times, it was me going into this unique space, exploring all these awesome dimensions, seeing all these awesome sights and sounds, and feeling these vibrations, exploring it with my partner sexually, so integrating it into my life, doing all these fun things. But it was more like me going out and exploring. And then it kind of started getting like I was the one that was being explored. So I would take a couple hits, pop into the space, and then like I was getting like leeched on, or like almost like an animal in a zoo. And I would come up and they'd be like, oh, he's here, he's back. And I felt as though like I was being looked at. And then once I felt as though I was welcomed or comfortable, then it was kind of like they're examining me. And then that's where that kind of like UFO and alien abduction kind of story also kind of ties into a lot of DMT experiences, because it was very invasive. It wasn't sexual, it wasn't painful, and this was multiple times. So you'd go in, and it was almost like I said, they were so excited to explore you, like you were this weird entity, just like I was excited to see them. Kind of daunting, because you are feeling like, what the fuck, I didn't really give you permission to do that. But then this is kind of where the latest kind of round, so to speak, is that alien entity, or that weird foreign kind of being that seemed to be exploring me or downloading stuff into me, or kind of checking in on my status, kind of now feels as though it's me, my future self, from whether it be a different time, a different dimension, a different fucking something, which sounds so crazy, but then it takes all of the scariness out of it, because it's almost like I'm coming in to check on myself. I'm doing my own self-diagnostics. I'm going in there kind of saying like, hey, good job, buddy, you're on the right path. And it took the whole, like, my energy is also in that space, and I'm kind of conducting from a higher and I don't know enough about physics to talk about like what dimension or what, but some other space than just our human earth, five senses reality. I'm there somehow, some way, part of that exploration of myself. So it's like I'm excited when I pop into this space, because it's like, yes, he's doing it again. Like we've got 7 minutes. Like let's get what we can into him. So it's become this really even more of a self-exploration journey, even more of a, when you do your mindful meditation prior to, when you're setting your intention and making sure everything is good. I now I have even more, not respect, but it's like you've got to be really powerful about what your intention is when you're going into the space, because 9 times out of 10 you're going to get some pretty powerful answers. But it's so over the hundreds of times for it to morph from that to that, like, I mean, there was not one time when it was like, oh, this is just calm. It's always been like, oh shit. But yeah, that kind of first realization, like, oh fuck, it's just me. but then I guess it also leads to how much you're doing. So you can technically microdose. You can cut. So if you do make your own crystals, and it's super easy, it's like a 3 or 4 step extraction process. And once again, here's another disclaimer. I'm not telling you to break any laws. I'm not telling you, but like you can legally buy all these products. It's super easy to put them all together. So if you do make your own, batch of crystals, the easiest way to smoke them is to put them in a cartridge, like a vape cartridge. So you can either cut it with CBD oil, tobacco oil, just regular vape oil. You can turn the battery down lower. So you can kind of take little mini hits. You don't have to be this full blown, like, if I don't get the answer, I'm going to fucking go into the woods. You can just have a nice, like, I'm going to vacuum the house in a half hour, so let me go take a half a hit. It's what your intention is. You do feel, the analogy I used the other day, and I think it's probably applicable. If you were a snowboarder or a skier and you were doing like this triple black diamond, and you had already, you'd skied that trail a dozen times before, you're still nervous. You still have to give it the respect. It's never going to be easy. You never know what ice is going to be in the trail. You never know what obstruction, what tree fell. If things go great, it's still going to be dangerous and life-threatening, and one false move and you're going to fall off the cliff. And I think when you're messing with something as powerful as DMT, you really have to make sure, check your bindings every run, make sure you've got the, trail map right. And because it's not something you just kind of jump out of the chair and just run down. But once now being comfortable in that space, it's something I use consistently for therapeutic, spiritual, meditative, sexual, all of those purposes. And it's part of my, I don't want to say day-to-day life, but it's definitely part of my holistic well-being for sure.
And it is at this time, I'll go ahead and invite you to break that pipe out. Ladies and gentlemen, check the video version. He's going to do some DMT. Tune in. It's going to be a minute, though. We're going to do some dead air, possibly. I don't know. Maybe some hooping. Kidding, of course. But, dude, fascinating how you described this. And it's so interesting that you said this. First time I ever did was this March. First time I ever smoked ayahuasca a year before, but smoked DMT this year. I was invited out to Atlanta to hang out with the Phi Tribe. Shout out Ford and Mike. And had just an awesome time with them. And the day I get there, they go, "Hey, do you want to smoke some DMT?" I was like, "Fuck yes, it's been on the list. Let's go." So they actually had it and then dropped it on top of CBD flower. So it actually was in a pipe on top of CBD flower rather than normal weed, because you didn't want to cough the hit out, right? Mm-hmm. So they put it on that thing. You took a good rip, and I'd heard about this. I'd heard a lot about it. And so there was at least some knowledge going in to get past the waiting room, right? That little colorful gold sheen, or those little psychedelic pictures that are pretty and bright and colorful, but that's not real transition is what I've heard. So I, instead of the 3, standard, hey, if you can make it to 3, you'll be good. 5 hits my first time. McKenna. Yeah, 5 hits my first time. My hand was already, felt like it was like a bunch of string wrapped around it, or looked like that, as I was taking that 5th hit, and it sparked up, and it was like a huge flame from a dragon's mouth. And dude, took that 5th one, and then there was a sleep mask that they gave me because they knew. They were like, "Hey, just sit down here," right? So I did a sleep mask in a lounge chair and just kicked back. And man, it started wild. And we could, I won't discuss all of it. It's up on Patreon if you guys want to check it out. With Ashley Rose, we talked about the whole experience. But I met entity. I was shot right through that fucking waiting room, dude. There was no waiting at all. I was very welcomed in. So it's funny you said that. Thousands of entities like pulling me, reaching out with their hands and pulling me forward, like all smiles, gestures, and all kinds of shit. These dudes with huge swords, all kinds of shit. But anyway, it is interesting whenever you go into that realm and you're making connection with something there, because you're not from there. And just like how they're interested in you, do you feel that you are at an advantage there, being there with those beings, or do you feel that they're more of an advantage in that environment?
So you had a guest on a couple back where he was talking about, like, entities are like, basically saying that they're negative and they're going to leech power. And
this is where I'm going with it. Yeah.
So I did watch that. And I think there's a lot of credence to what he's saying, because the potential for that energy suck is certainly there. So I guess 2-part question. I think they have the advantage because they have they, and once again, what are we talking about? Angels, demons, entities, jesters,
all of it.
That's their normal space. So they're using the senses other than our five, and I think they're able to manipulate it and use it better than we can. But I do kind of agree about his point, is that they need us for something, whether it be the energy contact, the point, whether like they need us to actually manifest in this time space reality, because they're somehow higher. And they need to collapse down, and they need our kind of dumbed down or 3D consciousness to somehow keep living or to keep charging. So I don't think it has to always be negative. I think it can be mutually beneficial. I think it can be symbiotic, and I think it can potentially even be synergistic, where you have two positive entities. You have two positive spaces, and that vibrational energy, I think, can do both destruction and creation. Now there's how do you become wise enough or enlightened enough to differentiate that, is all of these archangels good or bad, or are these demons disguised as angels and vice versa? That I won't claim to have any really insight on. I feel as though I have a pretty good bullshit meter in this world. And then I think DMT opened that even further. And in that space, I'm very comfortable telling. Not like there was this one time where it did feel like there was this kind of negative, kind of like sucking type energy, and I basically just said no, like that's not what I'm here for. Get out of my space, and it just dissipated instantly. And it that kind of gave me not cockiness, but it was just like, yeah, I am in control of this. Like
this is really where the question's going with this, and I'm so grateful you answered it the way you did. And it is because, yes, that is one perspective to have, that once you get in, you're opening yourself up to all this crazy shit and all of that. Now, I think that the truth is somewhere in between all of that, right? So perhaps there is something to, again, what Hattie Mikowski, all these guys that talk about this place being a realm of a demiurge, it's actually a farm that's sucking off of your energy. I'm having a tough time not saying it that way. But whenever you look at it that way, there's an advantage that's talked about in being able to navigate the astral realm or the next realm, right? Because you're going to be, as the idea goes, whenever your mortal coil is shedded, there's a meeting with some hardcore sales pitch archons, basically. And that's what they say the arc in archangel is short for archons, right? So you're going to be allegedly met with these hard pitch archons that are going to look like everything. They're going to look like all the decisions you made that you have regrets for, which is why it's very important to do that recapitulation, sort of go over your shit mentally, walk back through your life and go, yeah, I'm cool with that. Or, oh, I should maybe call that person, and whatever you feel, so that you don't have any attachments or bindings here. So that whenever you are, hard souled to get into that moon trap and get back down here and do this again, you can say, fuck off, right? Exactly like what you said to that entity. And this is my question. I think that you at least have an advantage in your ability to have your disposition here and then to navigate that realm with that similar disposition, but knowing that it's out of your, you're going underwater a little bit. It's foreign. It's a new space for you to navigate your consciousness in that's so unfamiliar to how we do it here. But I feel that this is giving you, again, this amazing advantage. I feel that that's a muscle that you're building as long as, and you're very mindful of this, as long as you are mindful, I feel, of not bringing something back with you that's just going to fucking screw your life up, or that's giving you like this carrot on a string, long game con that you're like, yeah, no, we hang out in the astral and all that kind of stuff. I feel that you're asking the right questions to these fucking things, and that if you do get a bad feeling about it, you're not going to let it slide. And so that's amazing, which is, again, why I asked. I feel that there's a great advantage to what you're doing to being able to actually escape this motherfucker on the other side, because you're going to kind of know what it feels like a little bit more than the average person.
Well, we all need to do our shadow work, and it's not shadow work like get rid of the shadow. It's shadow work knowing that that's part of the polarity, that's part of your being. I don't think that we're gonna dissolve our ego or get rid of. No, my ego is a beautiful thing. My ego, when shit hits the fan, if you and I were out at a concert and shit broke down, you'd want my fucking ego to be the crazy guy that's ripping people's arms off. Like that's hopefully I never have to do that, but I don't want my ego completely gone.
I love it. I'm a lover, not a fighter, but I'm a fighter, so don't
But
get
yeah,
ideas.
if need be, you want
Fuck
that
off.
passion.
Yeah. Oh yeah, yeah. It's a warrior in a garden mentality. You'd rather be a warrior in a garden than a gardener in a war.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
One thing I think that maybe gave me an advantage going into this space with kind of this attitude of whatever, bring it at me, was everything in my life already was destroyed. I had lost everything. I had lost my job, my relationship, my homes, my money, my titles, I mean, truly everything. I had nothing else possible to lose. So when I was walking out, whether it was walking the streets of Las Vegas at 2, 3 in the morning, whether it be out in the woods of Utah or Northern California, where I was walking with literally bears and mountain lions and shit, I didn't care. Like, I really did not care. I wasn't afraid of anything or anybody. And I say in some of these, and it's, I say it kind of like jokingly as a metaphor, but the shit's real. And I say it like to try to give emphasis on how powerful it was. I feel as though I was fucked by the devil, and I felt as though I was abducted by aliens, and I was torn apart by every possible demon that was out there. So I'm not afraid of. I've already dealt with them. I've already told them to fuck off. They've already done, like, I've already beaten them in their game. And even to the point where it sounds corny, but it's kind of one of those cool, like, as a grown adult, not that anybody, well, I shouldn't say anybody, not that you're necessarily like afraid of ghosts or goblins or things like that, or things under the bed. But like, if you were to lay and your hand falls off the bed, you kind of instinctively pull it under. You don't want something to be there. Or like you're worried about like the closet door being open and you want to shut it. After all this shit, I don't like, I love going into dark places where it's almost kind of like, who's going to be here? Because if it's the devil, he already knows who the fuck I am, and I'm comfortable. If it's one of his minions, I'll tell him to screw. If it's some alien thing, like, they're cool with me. So it's really like, there's nothing that I haven't already dealt with. And what are you going to take from me? Everything's already been taken. And that's another kind of awesome point of this, is once you've seen how your energy is projected into the future and that it's way more than this, I'm also not afraid of death at all. And not to say that I welcome that transition of energy, but man, I am not at all intimidated, afraid. If it happens at the end of this podcast, man, I just know that I lived an amazing, blessed life, and I went on top. But knowing, so once again, if you can't take any material good from me, if my integrity and character are completely solid because of all the shit that's happened, and I'm not afraid of my actual life and dying, what can any possible entity or spirit or devil or alien or anything, but even better, what can any man or woman ever do to me? Fucking nothing.
This is the power. This is the power of the break, by the way. The power of that deep shit, because I'm sitting here fucking nodding my ass off. Guys, check the video version in the show notes. See, this man is handsome. I am nodding my ass off, sir, because I completely agree with you. There's nothing to fear after that fucking shit, because you've been through it. You stared at this thing. You said, yeah, I can kill myself easily. I know 12 ways to do it right now. You don't give a shit to a level that you need to not give a shit. And you find this strength that you didn't know you wanted. And it's on the other side of this, being bullshitted the whole time, being fucked by the devil the whole time, is a beautiful analogy, dude. And it's on the other side of that, though, where your no fucks exist. And that is where your power lies, dude, because you're not attached. You're not being pushed or pulled in any direction. You can't be fucked with and bullshitted anymore, because you've already done it. And you've already been there. You've seen all the devil's dicks, and they suck. And so you're not affected by it in the same way, which makes you dangerous as fuck, man. And that's the point I hope that people who maybe are fighting something like this or not leaning into how they're feeling on the other side of this, guys, that's the power. It's not the love and light. It's not this disharmonious energies that you're putting out into some fucking far-flung future, convincing yourself that you signed contracts to come here and get fucked. Maybe if you want to view things that way, keep your power there. But I'm saying that there's another side to this, and Adam and I are talking about it right now. And it's just awesome what you're talking about, man. It's beautiful.
And so once all that bullshit's been removed too, it allows your empathy to be increased. It allows your sensitivity to be increased. It allows as a guy, it allows your feminine side to come out more. It allows you to be comfortable, like we said, hugging another guy and being like, oh, you're worried about somebody seeing you. No, because I'll tell them to go screw. I'm not worried about it. And I'll tell them, no, I'm hugging this man because I love him and we're sharing good energy. And if they somehow laugh at that, cool. Like, let them walk on their own path. I'm going to sit there and hug this guy and share energy. So it translates into everything. But then that openness to see yourself with that same type of empathy and that same sense of forgiveness and that same sense of love. It allows you to just let that much in, whether it be a loved one, whether it be kids, whether it be puppies, whether it be whatever. It allows that paradigm shift. And I mentioned in our email prior to this that I'd love to kind of give you congrats on the interview with Neil Donald Walsh, with the author of Conversations with God, because one, just an amazing book. Two, it also helped transform my life, and holy shit. But just, the concept of a new religion, in essence, a new concept of God, and being, being somebody that's not fearful, having novel thoughts that are going to get pushed out. But yeah, we need an entire consciousness shift, which is going to change all not change, but just see that this self-destructive path, whether it be a microcosm that I was experienced within me, is the same thing that's happening as a microcosm in society, and ultimately the same ills. Like I was, clouding myself with alcohol, and I was 40 pounds overweight, and I thought everybody else was my problem, and the guy that screwed me over, what an asshole, and the woman that screwed me over must be her fault. It's like, no, like if anything, I owe all those people an apology, a genuine, I'm sorry, I was an asshole, and then two, to take accountability for your own actions. You're able to just move on and live your life and live it in a way where, once again, you're not worried about the past or the future. You're so blessed to be shrouded in, whether it be God's grace or to walk around without plaque, like to know you had a 40-pound backpack of plaque, and then to take that off. Like, it's almost like you want to just run around and explore life because you don't have all of those obstructions and you don't have all those things that used to tie you down. And it's like, it's a whole new lease on life.
The analogy I used I was on the Typical Skeptic podcast. Robert Khalil, amazing show. Thank you so much for having me on, buddy. And one of the things we talked about on there was this analogy that I came up with for this experience I was having, which was that I had an entity or something, somehow, or a bunch of muck or something that had tied my nuts up. And then left nut was on the right side and the right nut was on the left side. All this good stuff, right? Now, over time, just like whenever you tie a string around your finger or something like that, the finger will go numb. And so you just don't feel it. You just don't notice that it's there. And then you think of these things like the plaque you talked about, or like these entities, perhaps, taking little bits of your energy and tying it off and numbing it out and siphoning it off in that way. Now, when I started looking at things like this, I was just like, oh my God, get fucked with all of this shit. Because then if you really look at like the way that energy could be harvested in this place or whatever, then it feels like if they are tying off and siphoning off this energy or whatever, you, after a certain amount of time, maybe you do start to notice and you start to go, hang on, I do want the feeling in that finger back. And hang on, my nuts are in a fucking twist. The process of taking that string off or undoing your nuts, for instance, putting the right one on the right side and the left one on the correct side, all of that is a painful process. There's balance restored. It's way better than having it the other way. It's just like you're not going to untreat a broken leg. You're going to get it fucking fixed. You know what I mean? When you notice these things and your feelings, I feel like what you went through, these emotions are your indicators. That's your symptom that something's going on. And if you don't mask them with alcohol like you didn't, and I'm proud of you, man, because I'd put the bottle down as well, and I'm just proud of you. I know what that's like. So I also know what a big impact that makes on your life. So well done, man. But if you're able to do that, if you're able to do that, then it's a magical place here where you really can regather your energy and balance all this shit. It's when you start going, hang on, and you notice the plaque on you. And then the real shadow work, like you said, is just shining light on this shit. And you come to terms with the things you come to terms with, you accept those things, and you change the ones, and you're wise enough to know the difference, all that kind of shit. But it's a fucking ride, man, and it's a dark one, and I think that this is one of the more important conversations about this topic, Adam. We've talked about DMT, and I highly encourage everybody to get to your book here, guys, again, located down in the show notes, and we're going to have you on 1,000 more times to talk about many more things, but there's such an important topic that we've woven into this that I'm so grateful that we did, which is the other side that the Love and Light folks aren't talking about, the real side of this, what it looks like after this break, that maybe some people have been entertaining just staying on the other side of and to avoid, and all of those other things. Don't recommend that at all. Highly recommend rip the Band-Aid off, get those nuts untwisted, and settle your shit in a balanced way, because it's not fun necessarily, but God damn it, like you said, man, on the other side, I give a shit more for the things that I give a shit, and I could not care less about so many other things. Like any of the people pleasing tendencies, fucking gone. Any of the self-destructive habits, anything like that, gone. I have shined the biggest spotlight on all of this shit. And it seems like, man, and we're going to talk a little bit after this when we close here, but I'm very interested in being more familiar with that realm because I have experienced it once, but I'd like a little field testing so that I can go in with knowing that sovereignty is being retained in all realms is what I mean to say. I don't think that it would be a bad practice necessarily listening to the disclaimer ahead of times. Again, guys, this is illegal things that we're talking about, air quotes. So
can I
please?
So one of the cool things, though, once again, that it is produced in your own body, is that you can produce it through breathing and meditation. You know, so like, and it's not that full blown. Well, I shouldn't say that. I've had some amazing endogenous produced sessions where and it's there's videos out there that there's a lot of practices that you can follow, and it's real. You know, from somebody that smokes it and knows what it tastes like and knows what it feels like, you can with the proper mindset naturally induce it, and that's where, you know, all of this new science is proving these ancient meditative techniques of sitting and being mindful and being present and breathing, and it brings you to this enlightened blissful state. And it's because it's your body's pulsing DMT and you know, just it's so there's ways of having this go through you with naturally, and you know, that's probably a good way to start, which is getting a mind body connection. Start, you know, being comfortable with how your body is responding to its own physiology and the chemicals that are in it, and understand why they're producing it, and then understand that when you do DMT, you're not putting in a foreign substance, you're just adding on to what's already there, and that natural metabolism feels like it's a natural breakdown. Mind-blowing, change your fucking life, but it is you know, it is a very natural feeling, and I think that's why it's going to be important to bring, honestly, the humans to the next evolution of our species, like that next level of consciousness, where I think DMT is going to be a big part of tapping into our potential.
God, it's just it's so interesting. Like the second you're like, oh, this place, you know, can't get any more.
And there's so much great work on it. Honestly, there's so many awesome books and researchers, and the connections that I've made just since this book has been out and published. I just published it this March. There's so many intelligent, awesome minds that are doing great work. You know, the psychonauts like myself that are actually, you know, doing it, but also the people that are trying to understand the actual neurochemistry of it and what's happening and why. And you know, this extended state DMT where it's intravenous drip now, and there's so much stuff going on. So it's an exciting time to be part of this for mental health, for expansion of consciousness, for just human evolution. It's going to be fun.
Dude, it's absolutely incredible. It's just fascinating the work that you're doing. I'm just blown away that you've done DMT that many times, and that it just seems like, in comparison to what I didn't know you before, but in comparison to what you've described about yourself, we're just looking at a completely different guy here. That's calm.
Yeah.
That's
you
very
would not want to be my
self-aware.
friend. No, I was a condescending prick. I thought because I had the college education and the money, and like I really, man, but I sit here now knowing that I needed to every one of those horrible processes, or every one of those things that I look at when I was going through it, are exactly what needed to happen. And now, as I sit here at 43 years old, I'm so blessed to know that I hopefully have, you know, maybe half of my life left, that I don't have to waste that energy. I literally every night I go to bed and I say my prayers of gratitude, and they're just so lengthy and so genuine, and I get goosebumps every night when I go to bed because I'm so happy. And when I wake up every morning, I'm so grateful to enjoy another day. And it's real. It's not some fake bullshit, and it's not praying to some false god. It's none of that. It really is just a genuine sense of true contentment and gratitude. And irregardless of whatever material wealth I have or whatever external reality is going on. And especially now in today's world, if people can harness that, whether it be through taking a couple hits, or like I said, through praying and meditating and breathing, the world, I think, would benefit from that for sure.
Adam Butler, all the ways to find you are going to be located down in the show description. Your book, amazing, Butler's DMT Field Guide. Guys, check it out. Everything's located. Definitely going to come back on, brother, dude. I can't thank you for this honest, amazing conversation, for what you've done, just for showing up, you know, for yourself and just sharing that with everybody. Just thank you, brother, honestly.
And I'm available. I have my email, you know, and I know you're going to put the specs on there, but if I can help, you know, honestly, having a conversation with me, if that can shed some light on your darkness, and if God forbid, if anybody's out there who's thinking it, maybe it's not, this is the time for me to off myself, or it's not time for me to be here anymore, please contact me. I guarantee you I'll convince you otherwise. And I'll give you something to at least think about on why you should be here.
There is beauty on the other side, guys. We can both attest to that. If you're strong enough, and I know that you are. If you're listening to this, you're strong enough. Seriously. Because I've been in that spot like you, where you were just like, "Fuck this, I can't."
Yeah, but now look at our smiles. I mean, if anybody doesn't watch this video and they're like, "Look at these two cornballs," they're like, "All right, like, well, it's because we walked through hell, got that badge, and came out, and we're like, cool, like, I'm whatever, part of my journey, and I'm happy I went through it. I wouldn't want this mundane, mediocre bullshit. Every day's the same, no challenge. I mean, there's
I'm happier for it purified my perspective for sure, and I'm grateful for the perspective I have now on the other side of it, for damn sure.
Absolutely. More love. It allows you more love and connection, which is everything.
I love the shit out of you, Adam. Thank you so much.
I love you too,
this is
brother.
incredible, brother. We'll do it again.
Well, I feel as though myself and my inner circle will be watching your stuff for a while, so I'm here. We'll be part of it.
David's Bridal, where brides and bridesmaids get fabulously dressed. We let our friends pick out what we wear, show off our dance moves, obsess over every little detail, hold your hand through it all, smile bravely when it's time to let go. Make your dreams come true. The things we do for love, only at David's Bridal.